Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
So we have our expert elder law attorney, Joe Karp. Thank you for calling in, Joe.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Just great. The weather's beautiful, and we are so happy to talk to you. It's amazing to me how many people, Joe, have never really gone to an elder law attorney, and they just go to some attorney that has the word attorney, and they don't understand the differences of what an elder law attorney can do for them and just have a will drawn up. And we never go into that. We always get into a lot more intricate things, but maybe we ought to start from, the ABCs of what they should do.
Let me sort of explain what I perceive as the difference between elder law attorneys and attorneys who either are traditional estate planners or your local general practitioner who also does wills. Okay? What I perceive to be the major difference is traditional estate planning lawyers are people who plan for what happens when you die. So, and many of them, not all, but many of them are just tax-oriented, which is, for the most part this day and age, unnecessary for the average American, and Bernie Sanders would attest to that, because to be taxable from an estate tax point of view in federal is over $5 million, and a married couple over $10 million. So for the most part, that's where they're coming from. And because of that psyche, if you will, many of them, not all, think more about the money than what I consider are the two primary things that we look at. Number one, elder law attorneys are more focused. We are focused on death planning. That is important. But we deal with life planning as well. And we spend a lot of time talking about the what-ifs while you're alive, because that is critical. Whether you're interested in probate avoidance or not, which is an important thing to many people for good reason, that's a death planning issue. So the average lawyer who says, well, let's do a will and don't worry about the probate, or let's do a trust and you can avoid the probate, isn't necessarily addressing what elder law attorneys think is critical, which is, what if you don't die? What's going to happen then? When, not don't die ever, but if your economic crisis strikes as a result of a disability or impairment, how will that impact on you? How will it impact on your spouse? What steps can you take? Let's address that potential discomforting reality. And we sort of think differently because of that. So that's the critical thing that we start to think about. So the first thing I talk about after I get a handle on the people is I'm starting to talk about who would make your medical decisions if you couldn't. And who knows what you want and what you should be discussing with them and what's important to you, and to have some emotional and intellectual honesty about that situation. I had a family in this week. Now, when I say I had a family in, quite frequently a child will show up with the parents. And number one, and in fact I did an article for the magazine Boomer Times many years ago, which I have photocopied nicely in color and hand out and keep in my waiting room, called Why the Waiting Room, Because the first thing I do is when I say Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Smith, and the son gets up with them, or the daughter does, or the two of them, I say, well, you kids have to wait outside. The kids may be 55, but they're the kids. They have to wait outside, and I say, I have to have a conversation with your parent or parents alone first, because I want to know what they want to do. I want to have a conversation with them so that if there's ever an allegation of undue influence that child or those children tried to influence the parent or parents, I can at least say, well, I had an independent conversation with them. Prior to the children coming in, the parent or parents told me what they wanted to do, and they were at liberty to discuss it. So I do that, but that's sort of getting off the track. But I try to find out what the people want, and you'd be surprised what people want, and they start to tell you the truth if you're meeting with them, if you're talking about. So they'll say, my daughter is too emotional to ever make the medical decisions for me. Heck, I get my husband would not terminate my life supports. And I usually do a joke when they say that, just to sort of bring it down to perspective. I said, yeah, why would he want to end your suffering that he's been imposing upon you for the last 55 years of your marriage? Right. Of course he won't end your life support and just lighten it up.
Of course.
So we have those discussions, and then we talk about long-term care needs. So we start to talk about the things that are issues that are important, who would handle what, and since we're not in the document business, but we're in the advice business, and we're in the counseling business, and we do prepare appropriate legal documents to meet people's needs, we start with the advice. We start talking about what are you going to do, how are you going to do it. I had a lady in yesterday who I know for 35 years, and she, after her husband passed away, she invested all of her money in annuities. She took his life insurance and put it in annuities, and I didn't get into the merit of that because that was already done. That was already done. So what I'm going to say, you left yourself limited liquidity because the insurance company now controls and dictates when you get your money, and she has a relationship with a financial person whom she thinks the sun and the moon and stars of, and she knows other people do. And I said, well, do you have long-term insurance? And she said, well, I can't afford it now that I have this budget set up with the annuities. And then I explained to her that she should go back to her insurance person, and I said, there are annuities available with long-term care riders. Discuss that with your agent. See if you're out of the penalty stage. See what the pros and cons are to transfer an annuity or some of the annuity monies to an annuity with a long-term care rider, so you have long-term insurance, but you're really not paying a steep premium for it. It's paid through the annuity, and you'll get a little bit of a reduced interest rate, but you'll get the protection.
That's excellent advice, Dan. Excellent, Joe.
And obviously that has nothing to do with legal documents, legal services, if you will. That's dealing with the holistic problem that her long-term care issues are very real because, as we well know, long-term care costs can dissipate assets dramatically. So I had that conversation. So I think that's what elder law attorneys do that's different. We start by the premise, and obviously we do Medicaid planning, and I do Medicaid planning for clients or crisis intervention to obtain Medicaid for long-term care benefits. And since we've been doing this over 20 years already, we understand the pros and the cons. As I've said before, sometimes they find out that somebody got Medicaid, but they got it at too great an expense. And I'm not talking about the legal fee, that the decisions to obtain Medicaid or whether to obtain Medicaid were economically imprudent, because you got to always look at the cost-benefit analysis. What do you get for what you're giving up? And I'm not talking about the quality of care. The quality of care is the same, but I've seen people cash in IRAs where somebody had limited longevity and hire their children and have children pay income tax when there's limited on the money that they pay them with limited longevity. So it really requires an analysis, and that takes experience and time even from elder law attorneys, because you have to get a mindset as to what you're doing. So that's what we do, and we do it for people, not only octogenarians who are walking in, but newly retired people who are planning to retire, what they should do, what they should consider, what they should budget. I mean, my long-term insurance was bought when my wife had not hit 50 yet, because I knew the issues of insurability, how anybody could become defined as no longer insurable, and that happens to people. Heart attacks, cancer, all sorts of things happen to people. Knock wood, my wife is still healthy as she's ever been, but you never know. So we bought that early on, and that's the advice I would have given people who came in, if, in fact, their economic resources allowed for it and they could prioritize money towards that protection.
You know, we did the same thing, Joe.
That's what we think about.
Right. We did the same thing, and here Bill is 92 and he's never had to use it, but it's a wonderful thing to have. And I think that you and I talked about that. You and I have been working together for so many years, and when it first came out, remember people, I don't want to go to a nursing home, and excuse me, I don't want to go to a nursing home, I don't want this or that, and it was so obvious that it was necessary. But I'm glad that you shared that they can also there are other plans now that if they have life insurance that they can get in some long-term health care, hopefully.
Yeah, and both annuities and life insurance offer options where, and I almost sounded like the set it and forget it guy, if you don't use it, you don't lose it. So you can do things, and some people are sitting with CDs or annuities that they're not touching, or life insurance that can be converted into a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. Now, obviously, they still have to qualify medically and age-wise. There's some issues, but it's a benefit that's available, and people need to explore it. Most insurance people don't know about it. So anyway, those are things that elder law attorneys do. Now, I think we do some stuff differently than most anyway, because we spend a lot of time talking about the people and the people's interactions, and also how not to offend people. I had a lady in yesterday who wants to leave her daughter a stipend above and beyond what she's leaving her son. So she wanted to make a distribution to her daughter of $200,000, then 50-50 to her son and daughter. And the lady is in a position to do so at this point, and there will be still a significant residual for both of them. The daughter is actually financially better off than the son, but the daughter has the lady has inherited money from her brother, which helped do it. But the lady feels, my daughter was my brother's caregiver for 10 years. The daughter lives down here. My daughter has been my caregiver and is always taking me wherever I have to go. She changes and alters her plans all the time. And I want to give her something special and above board. And I was very candid because I learn about the families, I learn about the people, I learn about the interaction. She's been my client for, 8, 10, 12 years. She said, and then everything will be 50-50. I said, your son is going to resent that forever. he's going to say to his sister, you don't need the money as much as I do. And need is a strange word. You have more money than I have. You should give me half. Mom was crazy when she did it. And I said, and if that happens, your daughter's going to have to make a decision. Do I do what Mom wanted to do? Do I take the money because that's what Mom thought was fair? Or do I lose my relationship with my brother, potentially? Do his kids and my kids never talk to each other again? Do you really want to do that? I said, take a look at the money you have. Why don't you give your daughter a $200,000 gift right now? Do you think you need that money? She said, never, ever. I said, give it to her now. Take it off the table. Leave your trust alone. Don't amend it. Leave everything 50-50. Do the gift now. It's a non-taxable event because you're allowed to give away $5.4 million, and you're not in that league at all. And then you will not have created a barrier between your children. And she said, I never thought of that. You're right. She said, I think my son would understand if I did it in the trust, but my daughter-in-law would never understand. And my son is effectively a wimp in relation to his wife, and it would create a major disaster. So you always got to think about the repercussions of what you're doing. You're not just dealing with numbers. You're dealing with people.
And, Joe, I want to talk about your seminars before we run out of time. And I just had so many guests on. I gave away all my magazines. So would you be kind enough to tell us when your seminars are and tell us?
Yes, I will tell a few things.
Thank you.
I can do it all.
Thank you.
And I tell everybody to read your magazine this month where I did an article about what to do if you want to cut out an estranged child.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Anyway, we do 3 public workshops this month. On Tuesday, February 23rd, at the Palm Beach Gardens Marriott Hotel, starting at 1:30, we're doing our senior survival workshop. That's Tuesday, February 23rd. We start promptly at 1:30. You don't need reservations, but be there. We start on time. Bring a sweater. Sometimes the hotel can be difficult weather-wise. And I'll be doing that workshop. Wednesday, February 24th, at the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn in Port St. Lucie, where we also have an office. We have one in Palm Beach Gardens, and we have one in Port St. Lucie. We will be doing a workshop at 1:30 at the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn. It goes till about 4 o'clock. It usually goes a little over. Attorney Jenny Bernstein, who's also board certified, who's been with my firm 11 years, will be doing that workshop. And then Thursday, February 25th, at 1:30 at the Courtyard by Marriott. That's on Congress Avenue between Gateway and Boynton Beach Boulevard. I'll be doing that workshop. You don't need reservations, but come on time. If you have questions, call our office. I give you, and we of course have an office in Boynton Beach as well. 1-800-893-9911. Go to our website, which is Karp Law, K-A-R-P as in Peter, L-A-W.com. There's information about the firm and about our seminars and our workshops and a whole bunch of other information about the people who work with us. And for people who attend the workshop, not only do you get educated, but if we think we can help you, so if you come in and you're a resident of Alaska, we don't think we can help you because we don't practice law in Alaska, by example, we'll offer you a free consultation where you can come in and talk about your estate plan, review your existing documents, or do new documents. Many people discover they need things that are brought up to date or that their things don't meet their needs, and discuss whatever is appropriate that we have discussed. Don't tell me you're mad at your condo association. We deal with elder law issues, which are estate planning, Medicaid planning, veterans benefits planning. We educate you on that. It's a very detailed but light workshop. We don't mention any statute numbers or anything like that. So if people are interested, come, Show up on time. If you have a question, go to our website or call the toll-free number 1-800-893-9911. And we get crowds because people need knowledge and information, and they haven't heard the things we're talking about, how much they can gift, how does the estate tax law impact on them. And people who think they don't have estate tax implications because they're under $5.4 million discover, well, if the surviving spouse moves to New Jersey after the first spouse dies, they may face New Jersey estate tax. So we give them a big, broad-based education because we're dealing with what we think are the realities of life. By the way, last week I got a text in a rush from my nephew David in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta, and David texted me that I had missed the show on Saturday, and I had to text him back that he was a week early. David gets up in Atlanta at 7:30 to hear this show every 7:30 on Saturdays when I'm here. He likes to hear me give other people advice. My advice to him would be sleep later and listen to it on the internet, but that's always been the story. Other people always follow my advice better than some of the family members. But anyway, so it's a good thing to go to the workshop. You'll learn a lot. If you don't want to go to the workshop and you'd just like to meet with us, no problem. Call up and we'll charge you $400 for the consultation that would have been free had you attended the workshop. And people wonder why I do that. And the answer is because if you attend the workshop, you get such a broad base of knowledge that when you come in, I'm answering questions based upon a predicate of knowledge you've already been given. And you have a sense of who we are and what we're doing and what we're talking about. Whereas if you don't, I got to do a mini seminar for you where the other lawyers do. We have 5 other lawyers, and they're all good and experienced and knowledgeable lawyers. And so most won't see me. Obviously, I'm only 1 out of 6, and I let them see a lot of people. But they're all knowledgeable, and 3 of them were with me already more than 10 years. So
Joe, I'm going to jump in
a lot
here.
Of knowledge and experience to
Okay, I'm going to jump in here now. You've done a lot of talking, and you've shared everything, but I have to share also about you. There are a lot of attorneys out there, and of course, a lot of specialties, but Joe Karp is really one of the finest attorneys probably in the country, and he has one thing that makes him so good, not only all his knowledge, his knowledge and his information, but his compassion, his caring. He's involved in a lot of organizations, but he really is, I think, underneath, he's a psychologist. And so when he's handling the law part of his profession, he's also looking at you in a way that he can foresee what could happen, and he makes wonderful suggestions. He is really very, very special, and we are so privileged to have Joe as someone that we have worked with for so long. Our own family, of course, has used Joe, and I just hope that people who are not protected go and do this. It won't take you very long. Make the appointment with Joe. Joe, and I have to just really keep saying that you are very special. I don't want you to get a big head, but let me give you a phone number that you should really talk to Joe. And Joe, unfortunately, as I said, I don't have any of I have karplaw.com, KARP.
I'll give you the phone numbers.
Well, wait, let's do the Karp Law.
One toll-free that covers all the offices because that's the easiest, even though we're in Boynton Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, and St. Lucie. It's easier just to call 1-800-893-9911. Go to the website, karplaw.com. Have your children go to the website. Right. They'll feel comfortable if they know where they're coming.
That's right.
We think your family should know where you're going for help.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's been wonderful always to have you, and we'll talk to you hopefully next month. Have a great month.
Say hello to Bill.
All right.
He lost a dear friend last
Thank you.
week, and,
good. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Joe.